Okay, next thing we're going to do is create the text. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And now, just kind of want to show you a couple of things here. Now I can go to create shapes text immediately right here. Okay, or I can go create shape and then go through this dialog box and go to text. I find this a little longer and I find this a little easier. So it all depends on how you like doing stuff. So let's see, top. I want to change this to front. I could have just typed F, but anyway, so let's go to create shapes, text, and the text I want to enter in, and you enter that in this little dialog box down here, and that's CAD CIM technologies. Now make sure I spell that correctly because I'm infamous for not. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the front viewport. And notice how our scale is whacked here. So, so we can, one of the two things, we can either scale it or we could have started off with our text size at 30. Okay, so I'm always ex post facto and I always do it after the fact. So I'm going to just change it here. Go to modify and then go down to the size of the text as long as it's still selected. And I'm just going to just shove this over, kind of center it up, and then move it. Oops, wrong one. Okay, and move that forward. Okay, then what I need to do is I need to extrude the text. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to extrude the text. So what we want to do is go to the modify, and then we want to go down to the modify list here. And every time you go into the list, I want you to read through some of the objects. If you don't have too much experience with 3D Studio Max, take a look at what's available. And when you need to do something, you know, your memory might just be jogged and you might come back here intuitively. So that's what I usually do. Go to extrude. And here, notice how the splines filled in the text. So that's kind of convenient. Now, let's go ahead and extrude this up. And the author asks us to extrude it by a value of, say, 3. It's kind of shallow, but that's okay. Let's just say 3. And I think we're in the right position. So the next thing we want to do is we want to apply the material onto this. Okay. So again, what we want to do is we want to go to the materials editor, and we want to select probably a blend, which will give us a little bit of a shininess. Let's go ahead and select this fourth rollout, and we want to change the color to 253 185. Say 253 185 2 for the color, and say OK. And we want to go ahead and select. Let's select that and up. Issuing a Maya command again. Sorry about that. Anyway, so then now the material is assigned. Now, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and add some more specularity. Remember how we did that? And I'm going to go ahead and add some shininess. Now he doesn't ask us to do it, but I just went ahead and did it. So let's take a render, see what that looks like. Okay, you can see how it's looking there. So now the next thing we need to do is we have to add a bend modifier to this text. Okay, now we need to pick the axis in which we're going to create the bend. Now let's kind of experiment around with some different settings, just so that you can get a feel for what's going on. The default that I had set here was for the z-axis. Now that's going to whack me out here. Notice that? Okay. That didn't work too well, so let's go back to 0. Let's go to the y-axis. Let's go. No, that didn't work. But, you know, take a look at this. Take a look at what it's doing. That way, when you come to a situation in which you want an effect like that, you know where to get it and how to do it, okay? So let's go ahead back to 0. And last but not least, it is the x. So let's increase that value. And I don't know if he gives us a value to, 237.5 is what he asks us to go. So we go to 237.5 and looks good. Okay, except for I'm off center a little bit. Just hit the open space, select it again, hit W, and I can kind of scoot it on over. This is what I don't like about 3D Studio Max. There you go, scoot it on over, and there we go. Okay, again, gonna take a look, gonna back out a little bit. Okay, looks pretty good. I'm now on page 1231 and I'm assigning the camera to the scene. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So let me go to the front view here and I'm just going to hit that one. Okay, that's better. Now I just need to align it and hopefully I can grab that. Yes, see? Okay, now my camera is buried in all this grid. Okay, and I really don't like the way that Max operates this, but I got to live with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit camera here, or go back, hit camera, set OK, and hopefully I can grab this. Just there we go. Just carefully pull that out. Now what I want to do is select the camera. Now I can type C. Let me type that, and it goes immediately to the camera. Or I could have selected it here. Okay. So let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to bring this camera further back. And as I bring it further back, you can see the globe there changes up here. Very top and top. There you go. Bring it further out. I think that's about right for where we want to go in this exercise. Okay. Okay. There's also something I wanted to talk to you about, and that is, let's say I have this text here, but I'm not really happy with it. I'm not happy with what it actually says. So if you needed to, you can always change it by selecting it and then going down to the Modify menu and looking down the history here. Now, in this history, you still have the Extrude node and the Bend node that you applied to the text, but you also have the original text node. Okay? So if you wanted to, you can go back here and change that text if you needed to. So let's go ahead and proceed to the next part. Now what we're going to do is add a space kind of look environment to the background. The way to create the space scene back here is we need to go to the environmental map area under rendering, and we want to go to environment, or we could have just typed 8. We're going to take a look at the color here. And I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm sorry, not the color, but the swatch thingy next to the color. And what we want to use this time is, instead of a map, what we want to use is noise. Okay? And noise is really handy. It really comes in handy for a lot of things. So learn how to use noise just to break up a pattern. And you can make it subtle or you can make it very contrasty, but it really kind of comes in handy when you don't want to go out and make a map and you just want to do something quick and dirty. Sometimes noise will bail you out of there. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say OK. After we have all this, let's make sure that parameters have been set. Yep. Okay. And we now want to go to the materials editor. Okay, boy, these little icons are small on my screen here. Anyway, so what we want to do is we want to drag and drop this map onto that material. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, why do I want to drag this onto that material? I'll show you why right now. Okay, middle mouse button, drag that over and kerplunk. And here's why you want to do that. You want to create an instance. Okay, I'm going to just say OK there. And all of a sudden that populates that little area, and I have all these little parameters. Now, let me just explain something to you. Remember what I said about the instancing of the spheres? that if you modify one, it will modify the other, regardless of which is the original or which is the copy. With that said, that works the same way with this map. So notice I can't really modify the noise parameters in here. I can't change anything. It's just the big glob of noise from here. But I want to change it. And notice there's nowhere to change the noise here. But if you make it an instance and copy it into the materials editor, now all of a sudden I have full control over what the noise, how the noise reacts. Okay, so the author asks us to change some of these parameters, and we have to change the size here to 0.2, kind of small. Okay, and then the high and the low is 0.7, and then the high is 0.8. Okay, and the levels are 3. Now why? Oh, I forgot. We got to go to fractal. Okay, we got to change the levels to 3. Now it looks like I might have something wrong. No, I don't. I'm okay, because it's supposed to be more black than white. Okay, and I'm good there. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and minimize that. I'm not going to close it out. Minimize this. Now what I want to do is I want to render the camera, and let's see what we have. And there we go. We have our space scene right there. So again, let me review what happened. So when I created the noise in the environment under rendering environment here, had the noise in there, okay, the noise map. Since I cannot adjust it in this window, I need to then make an instance of it somewhere where I can manipulate it, and that somewhere is in the materials editor, okay? And I can change the parameters here. Would be nice if all this jazz was in here, but it's not. So this is the way we have to do it. Now this is the way a lot of things like this work, okay? So kind of keep that in the back of your memory. Okay, the next step is now we have to include some lights in our scene. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to go here, create, and lights, and I want to create from the standard set of lights an omni light. Okay, and right there, and I'll blop it right on top. Okay, now again, remember there's a danger here because I have to carefully grab that so I can pull it out of there, and I'm going to place that one right on the top. Okay, success. All right, anyway, I need to make 4 copies of that light, so I can either clone it like we did before, or I can just go ahead and hit shift and scoot the light over. Okay, and I want to make a copy and not an instance. Now again, let me talk about what would happen in an instance. If I created it as an instance, every time I would change the original light, that light's intensity would change. And let's say I wanted them different, so that would kind of hinder me. I wouldn't necessarily like that. So I'm just going to go ahead, and if I wanted a number of copies, I could go ahead and include this, and I just might do that right here. So I created 1 copy. I need to create 4, so create maybe, let's say 4. Hopefully I didn't create 1 too many. Anyway, and they created them in an array, which is okay. I'll just have to work with that. Okay, so now if you take a look on page 1235, the author asks you to arrange the lights in a particular order. So, and I know they're kind of faint, so just go ahead and do the best you can in seeing them. So I think I need to place one there, and I'm going to go ahead and shut the pause for a minute, go ahead and set them, and then I'll come back.